The concert hall stood tall at the center of the city, glowing under soft yellow lights as evening settled in. People arrived dressed in fine clothes, their voices low but excited. This was not just any music night. A world-famous pianist was holding a special public event, a mix of performance and teaching. Tickets had sold out weeks ago. Many believed this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to witness greatness up close. Inside the hall, rows of red seats curved toward the grand piano placed at the center of the stage. The piano shined like a mirror under the bright lights. Every small sound echoed: footsteps, coughs, whispers. The air carried a sense of importance, as if everyone inside knew they were part of something special. The pianist arrived to loud applause. He walked with confidence, used to admiration. His face showed calm pride, the kind that comes from years of praise. He bowed slightly, then sat near the piano, speaking about music, discipline, and talent. People listened closely, hanging on to every word. Some nodded as if his thoughts were law. As the talk continued, late arrivals quietly slipped into their seats. Among them was a young blind girl. She walked slowly, guided by an older woman holding her arm. The girl wore simple clothes, clean but worn. Her shoes were scuffed, her hair neatly tied back. She carried no instrument, only calm patience. Most people did not notice her at first. Those who did looked briefly, then away. In a room full of confidence and success, she seemed out of place. The older woman helped her find a seat near the aisle, several rows from the front. Once seated, the girl rested her hands on her lap and listened. She listened closely, not just to the words spoken on stage, but to the sounds around her. The soft hum of lights, the shifting of bodies and seats, the breath of the crowd. Music had taught her how to listen deeply. It was her way of seeing the world. The pianist soon invited volunteers to come forward. Young students raised their hands eagerly. Some had trained for years, hoping for this moment. One by one, a few were called to play short pieces. The pianist corrected their mistakes openly, sometimes kindly, sometimes sharply. The crowd reacted with polite laughter or silence. As the session continued, the blind girl leaned slightly forward. Her fingers moved gently against her palm as if touching invisible keys. She turned her face toward the stage. When the pianist asked if anyone else wished to play, her hands slowly rose. At first, no one noticed. Then the older woman beside her whispered something, unsure. The girl nodded. Her hand remained raised. The pianist looked out over the audience, scanning faces. His eyes landed on her raised hand. He paused. The room grew quiet. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered. The pianist raised an eyebrow and leaned closer, trying to understand what he was seeing. "Do you wish to play?" he asked. "Yes," the girl answered calmly. Her voice was soft but steady. The hall fell into an uneasy silence. Some people glanced at each other. Others looked away, already embarrassed for her. The pianist hesitated, then smiled slightly. Not warmly, but with doubt. He asked if she had brought sheet music. She shook her head. He asked where she studied. She answered honestly that she practiced at home when she could. A few quiet laughs rose from the audience. Not cruel, but careless. The pianist cleared his throat. He spoke about preparation, training, and how the piano was a demanding instrument. He mentioned how difficult it was even for those who could see every key. His tone was not loud, but it carried far. Each word landed heavily. The girl stood still as he spoke. Her face did not change. She had heard such words before. He finally said that perhaps it would be better for her to simply enjoy listening tonight. He suggested that the stage was not the right place for her. The words were not shouted, but they were sharp enough. A few people nodded in agreement. Others looked down, unsure how to feel. The older woman beside the girl tightened her grip, ready to pull her hand down. But the girl gently lowered her arm on her own. She took a slow breath. For a moment, it seemed the moment would pass. The pianist turned away, ready to move on. But then the girl spoke again. She asked if she could play, just once. Just a short piece. She said she did not need guidance or correction, only a chance. The room grew very quiet. The pianist turned back, surprised by her calm persistence. He studied her for a long moment. The silence felt heavy, stretching longer than expected. Some in the crowd felt uneasy. Others felt curious. A few felt annoyed, believing this interruption was wasting time. The pianist finally gave a small shrug. He said a brief attempt would be allowed. His voice suggested expectation of failure, not hope. The older woman whispered urgently, asking if she was sure. The girl nodded again. She stood, holding the woman's arm as they slowly moved toward the stage. Each step echoed loudly in the hall. The walk felt long. Eyes followed her from every direction. Some faces showed pity. Some showed disbelief. A few showed quiet support. She reached the stage edge. The pianist gestured toward the piano, stepping aside. The lights felt warmer up close. The piano smelled of polished wood and age. The girl paused before sitting. She placed one hand gently on the edge of the instrument, as if greeting an old friend. Her breathing slowed. The hall waited. This was the moment when most believed the story would end, not with music, but with silence, embarrassment, and a lesson about knowing one's place. No one yet knew how wrong they were. The girl sat down on the piano bench slowly, feeling its edge before settling. The bench was a little higher than she expected, but she adjusted without help. Her feet touched the floor lightly, searching for balance. The hall was so quiet now that even her breathing felt loud. The famous pianist stood a few steps away, arms crossed loosely. He did not rush her, but his face showed doubt. To him, this was a formality, something to get through before returning to real talent. He glanced at the audience, already sensing their mixed reactions. Some people leaned forward, curious despite themselves. Others crossed their arms, waiting for the moment to pass. A few avoided looking at the stage at all. The older woman who had guided the girl stood near the steps, hands clasped tightly, heart pounding. The girl lifted her hands and hovered them above the keys. She did not touch them yet. Instead, she listened. The piano made small sounds as the room settled, tiny creaks, a faint echo. She tilted her head slightly, mapping the space with sound. Someone in the audience coughed. Another person shifted in their seat. The girl remained still, calm in a way that felt unusual for her age. The pianist cleared his throat and reminded her gently that she could stop at any time. His words sounded polite, but there was no encouragement in them. More like a warning. She nodded once, not toward him, but toward the piano. Her fingers finally touched the keys. At first, there was only a single note, soft, careful. It echoed through the hall like a question. A few people exchanged looks. The pianist raised an eyebrow slightly. One note meant nothing. Then another note followed, and another. The sound was not rushed. Each note felt placed with purpose. The melody began slowly, like someone telling a story they had lived many times. The room changed. Whispers stopped. Bodies stilled. Even those who had already decided she would fail found themselves listening. Her hands moved with confidence now. Not fast, but sure. She did not look at the keys, of course, but her fingers knew exactly where to go. The piano responded warmly, as if it recognized her touch. The music was not loud. It did not demand attention. It invited it. The pianist shifted his weight. His crossed arms slowly fell to his sides. The melody grew deeper, richer. It carried emotion that could not be learned from books. There was sadness in it, but also strength. Loss, but also hope. It felt personal, as if the girl was opening a door into her life without saying a word. Some in the audience felt a strange tightness in their chest. They could not explain it. They had come expecting skill, not feeling. The girl's face remained calm, but her body leaned slightly into the piano, as if she and the instrument were breathing together. Her fingers pressed the keys with a balance of gentleness and power. The pianist took a small step closer without realizing it. He began to notice things that surprised him. Her timing was precise. Her control was steady. She was not guessing. She was not stumbling. This was not luck. This was memory, practice, and something deeper. The music shifted. The pace changed. What began softly now carried confidence. Notes flowed faster, but never carelessly. The melody rose and fell like waves. The audience was fully silent now. A woman in the front row felt tears gather in her eyes. She did not wipe them away. A man nearby swallowed hard, his hands gripping the armrests. The older woman near the stage covered her mouth, afraid to breathe. The pianist's face changed. The small smile of doubt disappeared. His eyes fixed on the girl's hands, following every movement. Years of training allowed him to see what others could not, the difficulty of what she was playing. This was not simple. This was advanced. He felt a slow heat rise in his chest. Not anger, but something close to shame. The girl continued, unaware of the shift she was causing. For her, this was not about proving anyone wrong. This was about being heard. The music reached a section that felt heavy, almost painful. The notes pressed into the hall, carrying a weight that made breathing feel harder. It sounded like struggle, like walking through darkness with no promise of light. Then, gently, the melody lifted. It was subtle, but clear. Hope entered the sound. Not loud or dramatic, but steady and real. Like someone learning to trust again. The pianist felt his throat tighten. He remembered his own early years. Long forgotten. The hunger. The need to be seen. Somewhere along the way, applause had replaced humility. The girl's hands slowed. The music softened again, returning to the quiet place where it began. Each note now felt like a farewell. Her final note lingered in the air, vibrating softly before fading. No one moved. The silence that followed was deeper than before. It was not awkward. It was full. For several seconds, the hall remained frozen. No coughs, no whispers, just shared stillness. The girl lifted her hands from the keys and rested them in her lap. She waited. She did not bow. She did not smile. She had given everything she came to give. The pianist was the first to react. He exhaled slowly, as if waking from a dream. He looked at the girl, truly looked at her. Not as a challenge or interruption, but as an artist. He opened his mouth. But no words came out at first. Then the applause began. It started with one person. Then another. Then many. The sound grew quickly, filling the hall. People stood to their feet without thinking. Hands clapped harder, louder, longer. The girl flinched slightly at the sudden noise. She turned her head, confused. Unsure what it meant. The older woman rushed forward, tears streaming, whispering that they were applauding her. The girl's lips parted in surprise. The pianist stepped closer to the stage edge. He raised his hand, not to stop the applause, but to acknowledge it. When the noise finally softened, he spoke. His voice sounded different now, he admitted, in front of everyone, that he had been wrong. That he had judged too quickly. That what he had just heard was rare. The room listened carefully. He asked the girl where she had learned to play like that. She answered simply. She said she listened. She practiced when the house was quiet. She learned by feeling and by sound. She said music was the one place where she was never blind. The words settled gently over the audience. The pianist nodded slowly, absorbing them. He then asked her if she would be willing to return to the piano after the event. Privately, to talk more. She smiled for the first time that night. The applause returned. Softer now. Warmer. What had begun as doubt had turned into something else entirely. The hall slowly emptied after the applause faded. People spoke in hushed voices as they stood and moved toward the exits. Many looked back at the stage again and again, as if trying to make sure what they had witnessed was real. The air still felt heavy with emotion. The girl remained seated on the piano bench for a moment after everyone else began to move. The older woman stood beside her, one hand resting gently on her shoulder. Neither of them rushed. For them, time felt different now. The pianist stepped off the stage and approached them quietly. There was no crowd around him anymore. No flashing lights, no clapping hands. Just three people standing near a piano that had just changed something none of them fully understood yet. He spoke softly, asking if they would like to stay for a few minutes. His voice no longer carried authority. It carried respect. They agreed. A staff member closed the large hall doors, leaving only a few lights on. The space felt larger now, emptier, but also more personal. The piano no longer looked like a symbol of pressure. It looked like a place of possibility. The pianist pulled a chair closer, sitting across from the girl rather than standing above her. This small action did not go unnoticed. It mattered. He asked her simple questions. How long she had been playing, where she practiced, what music meant to her. She answered honestly, without trying to impress him. She explained that there was an old piano in the place where she lived. Some keys were chipped, some stuck, but it still made sound. That was enough. She said she practiced early in the morning or late at night when others were asleep. Not because she was told to, but because those were the quiet hours, the hours when she could hear everything. The pianist listened closely, nodding now and then. He asked about her blindness, but carefully, without turning it into the center of the conversation. She told him she had never seen the world. She did not miss colors or faces because she had nothing to compare them to. Sound was how she understood space, people, and emotion. Music was where everything made sense. The older woman added that the girl learned songs after hearing them only once or twice, that she remembered them by feeling, not by name. The pianist sat back, silent for a moment. He then admitted something he had not said out loud in years. He said that when he first saw her raise her hand, he felt annoyed. He assumed he knew the outcome before it happened. He assumed wrong. The girl did not respond right away. Then she said she was used to that. She said people often decided what she could or could not do before she tried. Her voice was calm. There was no anger in it, just truth. The pianist felt the weight of that honesty. He asked if she had ever performed on a stage before. She shook her head. She said this was the first time. She had only played 4 small rooms. For neighbors, for herself, he smiled gently and told her that what she had done tonight took courage many trained musicians did not have. He said talent was one thing, but the ability to stand alone in front of doubt was another. The girl listened quietly. He then asked if she would like to play again. Not for an audience, just for learning. For growth, she agreed. The pianist stood and moved back toward the piano. He invited her to sit beside him this time. Their shoulders were level now. Teacher and student felt like the wrong words. They were simply 2 people speaking the same language. He asked her to play the same piece again, but slower. To listen to the spaces between the notes, she placed her hands on the keys once more. This time, the music sounded different. Not because it was weaker, but because it was thoughtful. Each pause carried meaning. Each note breathed. The pianist closed his eyes as he listened. When she finished, he gently suggested a small change. Just one. He explained it simply, without technical terms. She nodded and tried again. The adjustment transformed the sound. The melody felt wider, fuller. He laughed quietly, surprised by how quickly she adapted. They worked like that for a while, playing, listening, adjusting. No pressure. No judgment. Outside the hall, night had fully settled. Eventually, the pianist spoke about opportunities, about schools, about support. Not promises, but possibilities. The girl listened, but she did not rush to hope. She had learned to move carefully with expectations. She asked him a question instead. She asked if music always felt like this to him. He paused. He answered honestly. He said that once, long ago, it had. But over time, success had turned it into something else. Something heavier. She nodded, as if she understood. She said music should feel like honesty. The words stayed with him before they left. He asked if he could invite her back for another session. She agreed, smiling again, more comfortably this time, as they walked toward the exit. The older woman thanked him quietly. He shook his head and said there was nothing to thank him for. He said the night had given him something too. Outside, the air was cool. The street was quieter than before. The girl paused on the steps. Listening to the city sounds, she said the hall. It sounded different now. The older woman asked what she meant. She said it felt like the world had opened a door. The next days passed. Quickly word of the performance spread beyond the hall. Not through announcements or promotions, but through people talking. Someone shared a short recording. Someone wrote a message online. Someone told a friend. The video was not perfect. The sound was uneven. The image blurry, but the feeling came through. Comments appeared from people who had never met the girl, felt connected to her story. They spoke about being underestimated, about being unheard, about finding strength in unexpected places. The pianist watched the reactions quietly from his own space. He did not share the video himself. He simply observed. He realized that the moment on stage had not just revealed her ability, it had revealed his own blindness. He reached out to organizations that supported young musicians with disabilities. He asked questions. He listened more than he spoke. Meanwhile, the girl returned to her old piano. The chipped keys. The familiar sounds, but something inside her had shifted. She played with the same love as before, but now with a quiet belief that her music belonged beyond those walls. She did not know where the path would lead. She only knew she would keep walking it, and somewhere, a door remained open. The days that followed felt different. Even though life around the girl stayed mostly the same, the streets still sounded busy. The small home still creaked at night. The old piano still had its chipped keys and uneven sound. But something invisible had changed. People who passed her now spoke a little softer, a little kinder. Some recognized her voice from the short video that continued to spread. Others did not know why they felt drawn to her. It's only that they were. The girl did not fully understand what it meant to be noticed by so many. She only knew that more people were listening. Messages began to arrive through the older woman's phone. Some were kind and encouraging. Some were full of questions. A few were from music teachers and small organizations, asking if the girl would be willing to play again. The older woman read each message carefully, unsure which ones mattered and which ones were only passing excitement. She worried about protecting the girl from disappointment. The girl listened as the messages were read aloud. She did not rush to answer. She had learned patience early in life. One afternoon, the pianist called. His voice sounded thoughtful, not rushed. He said he had been thinking about their conversation. He said he wanted to invite the girl to play again, this time in a smaller setting. No cameras, no pressure, the girl agreed. When the day came, the hall was different from before. Fewer people. Softer lights. Chairs placed closer together. The piano waited quietly this time. The girl walked onto the stage without hesitation. She sat and played. The music flowed with ease now. There was less fear in it. Less need to prove. The notes sounded like they trusted where they were going. Those who listened felt it. Afterward, the pianist spoke honestly with the small audience. He said that talent often arrives in places people do not look. He admitted that the night they first met had forced him to question himself. Some listeners nodded. Others wiped their eyes. More invitations followed. A community center asked if she would play for children. A local station asked for an interview, but without showing her face if she preferred. A group that supported people with disabilities offered help with lessons and travel. Each step forward felt both exciting and heavy. The girl began practicing more. Not because she was told to, but because her music felt wider now. Like it had more room to grow, the pianist arranged regular sessions. Sometimes they worked on technique. Other times they spoke about listening, about silence, about honesty in sound. He never spoke down to her. He listened one evening. After a long session, he admitted something that surprised even him. He said he was learning from her too, that her way of hearing reminded him why he started playing in the first place. The girl smiled. Not everyone was kind. As the story reached more people, doubts followed. Some questioned whether the moment had been exaggerated. Others suggested she had been guided or helped. The girl heard about these comments. She felt a familiar ache. But it did not stop her. She returned to the piano. Music had never promised fairness. It had only promised truth. A larger event was soon planned. Not a grand concert, but something meaningful. A shared stage with different musicians, different abilities, different stories. The girl was nervous. The older woman noticed, and held her hands tightly before they went on. When the girl played that night, the room felt alive. Not loud, alive. People listened not because she was blind, but because her music spoke. When she finished, the applause felt steady, not overwhelming. She liked that later. Alone with the pianist, she asked if the world would always see her as different. He answered carefully. He said, "Some people would, but the right ones would hear her first." She thought about that. The story continued to grow. But it no longer felt like it belonged to the crowd. It belonged to her. She learned how to say. No, she learned how to rest. She learned that silence was as important as sound. One night, she sat at her old piano again, fingers resting on familiar keys. The city outside hummed softly. She played, not for an audience, not for praise, just because music still felt. It's like home, somewhere far away. People talked about inspiration and change. Here, in this quiet room, the girl simply listened and prepared for what was still to come. And though no one yet knew it, this moment was only the beginning. The final weeks before the next big performance passed quietly, but with purpose. The girl kept her routine simple. She woke early, listened to the city stretch into the day, and played when the world was still gentle. The piano keys felt familiar under her fingers, steady and honest. She trusted them. They had never asked her to be anything else. The older woman watched her closely, not with worry this time, but with pride. She noticed how the girl carried herself now. The fear that once sat on her shoulders had softened. In its place was calm focus. The pianist stayed involved, but not controlling. He checked in, offered guidance when asked, and stepped back when not. He understood now that growth did not come from pressure. It came from space. The event they prepared for was larger than before. Not because of fame, but because of meaning. Musicians from different backgrounds were invited. Some were young, some old. Some trained in halls and schools. Others learned in kitchens, garages, in quiet corners of life. The goal was not perfection. The goal was truth. On the day of the event, the girl arrived early. The hall felt open and welcoming. The stage lights were warm, not harsh. The piano waited patiently at the center. She walked across the stage slowly, feeling the space with her steps. She touched the piano lightly, as she always did. Grounding herself, backstage, sounds blended together. Laughter, nervous breaths. Instruments tuning, she listened. She was calm. When it was her turn, the room settled into silence without being asked. People had learned to listen. Before she played, she sat, her hands rested on the keys. She did not think about the first night. She did not think about doubt or ridicule. Those memories had lost their power. She began to play. The music moved gently at first. It's like a conversation between old friends. It carried familiarity, but also growth. The notes were confident without being loud, strong without being sharp. As the piece unfolded, listeners felt something shift inside themselves. Not shock this time, but understanding. The girl played with clarity. She played with honesty. She played as someone who knew who she was. The pianist listened from the side of the stage. His eyes were closed. He felt no need to analyze. The music spoke clearly. The final note settled softly into the room. There was no rush to clap. The silence that followed was peaceful. Then applause rose, steady and full like a wave that knew where it was going. The girl stood slowly. She bowed slightly, not for praise but out of gratitude. After the event, people approached her quietly. Some thanked her. Some shared small pieces of their own stories. She listened to each one with care. She did not feel above them. She felt connected. Later, when the hall was empty again, she sat once more at the piano. No audience, no lights, just sound. The pianist joined her. They did not speak right away. Finally, out. he told her that the world would try to label her. As inspiration, as miracle, as exception, he told her she did not have to carry those words. She smiled. She said she only wanted to carry music in the months that followed. Her life continued to grow, but not too fast. She played at small gatherings. She taught a few children how to listen before touching the keys. She learned new pieces, not because they were impressive, but because they felt true. The old piano at home was repaired by kind hands. Some of the chipped keys were replaced. Others were left as they were. She liked the mix. The short video that once spread so quickly slowly faded from attention, replaced by new stories. But something lasting remained. People who had heard her play remembered the feeling. The pianist changed. Too, he listened more. He spoke less. He remembered why music mattered. One quiet evening, the girl sat by an open window, letting city sounds blend with the notes she played. Cars passed. Voices rose and fell. Somewhere, a dog barked. She smiled. The world had not been silenced. It had learned to listen, and she would keep playing.